welcome, and I hope you're all getting on all right with the retreat. I was thought I would like to say something about remembering this morning. Well, as a start, in the Greek tradition, there was this idea that we, rather than what's the other word? That we knew everything and we'd just forgotten, and the kind of knowledge was remembered rather than discovered, if you like. And I was thinking about the as I often do when I'm doing a retreat. At some point, I always start to think about the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, the sort of historical Buddha, but of course, you know what's come down to us is, of course, a mythological Buddha in a way. Yeah. But the mythological story around the historical Buddha. I mean, that's quite interesting in itself. I think a lot of people consider the Buddha as a figure that kind of breaches the gap between what we would call mythology and history. Yeah. I think before the Buddha's time, there wasn't much distinction made in that culture between mythology and history, and in a way, he's often cited as one of the first kind of historical figures. Yeah. Anyway, that's a bit of an aside. But I suppose I do a bit of remembering. I find myself remembering the myth of the Buddha, or the story of the Buddha. And I think in particular, well, one of the things that I'm very keen on is this idea that after he's gone forth from the life at the palace in order to try and discover a way to overcome human suffering, and he's had this whole kind of adventure, and he goes off and sits with these very renowned teachers of the day. It was a real ferment of spiritual practice. Some people have estimated that actually up to a third of the male population, less of the women, up to the third of the male population in that particular part of India at that time were involved in spiritual endeavors of one sort or another. You know, I mean, whether that's true or not, certainly it was very much part of ancient Indian life in a way. And of course, it ties in with Karl Jasper's idea of this kind of astral age. There's a little talk by Bante, I'm sure it's still Sangharakshita, still available somewhere on the astral age. But there seems to be this kind of shift in consciousness across the world, as it were, in Greece, in China, India. It seems to be something's going on. There's a new emergence. There's a change in human consciousness. Anyway, won't go into that too much. But anyway, he goes to these teachers. He learns all their techniques, and he excels, of course, in the myth. He becomes the greatest pupil of these teachers he goes to, and he still feels he hasn't really attained what he wants. And then, as I'm sure you know this story, don't you? But that's the thing about stories, isn't it? We know them, but we need to remember them as well. Anyway, this is a very I can't say that word. Truncated. What can I say that word? Truncated version. He enters this period of asceticism, doesn't he, where he nearly comes to his own death because he's so weakened after many years of these severe ascetic practices. And at some point, anyway, he has this memory, doesn't he, of him as a kid sitting under the rose apple tree. And this is just a remembering of going into a kind of spontaneous state where he felt kind of at one, I suppose. Something dropped away, you know. Perhaps we could put it that way. I don't know. Something dropped away. He just felt at peace, yeah. Even though at the same time he saw, we're told in some of the texts that he's watching the plough and he's seeing the birds, crows and stuff, following the plough, eating the earthworms and stuff. So he kind of sees nature as it is, you know, or that aspect of nature. He sees life as it is, you know, it's not some sort of, but actually within that, he's at peace. He's at peace with how things are, you know. So we get that. And then we get a further very important remembering during his actual enlightenment, don't we? The process of enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. So based on this remembering of the rose apple experience, sitting under a tree watching his father, he sits under another tree, the Bodhi tree. So I have to sit there until he, you know, achieves what he wants to achieve, or dies, basically. And then we're told that part of his process is his remembering all his past lives. So we get these two remembering. I don't know how literally we want to, well, obviously it's a myth and we can't take any of it literally, really, but I quite often wonder what it means if we remembered all our past lives and how far back we would go with that, you know. Is it a Rumi poem? I think it's Rumi poem. It has the first line, at first I was a mineral. So he takes it right back. You know, we in a way, obviously there's some continuum right from the beginning of this world system or this universe or this particular existence, you know, right back to what we now call a Big Bang, isn't there? Some connection. So anyway, this kind of remembering of itself, but I suppose I'm suggesting it's not a literal remembering, but it's a location of ourselves within the flow, within the process of life itself. It's understanding that we are a manifestation. We are the universe manifesting in a certain way, perhaps we could put it. So why am I saying this? I think there's two things maybe I want to pull out of this. Is first that we've probably had all the experiences we need to have had. Yeah. We've probably already had all the experiences we need to have. This doesn't mean we won't have other experiences. Of course we will. Yeah. But having other experiences might not necessarily help us, yeah, might not necessarily help us. And it may be in a remembering of an experience, it's when the experience has been metabolized or matured, yeah, has become embodied. So this is quite important from a meditative point of view, that I think if you go into a meditation wanting experience, wanting a particular experience, it doesn't quite, it doesn't necessarily work in the long run, I don't think. Yeah. I think what we're trying to do in meditation is probably better understood. And of course, this is a metaphor. We're working with metaphor all the time, aren't we? It's an uncovering, yeah. Or that we're sufficient already. We're sufficient in and of ourselves. It's not that we need to add something or gain something or have some big experience. Yeah. But probably actually what we need to do is become more sensitive to the experiences we do have, all the time. Our life, of course, is one continual experience, isn't it? It's an ongoing experience. And how we appreciate what's happening in a kind of day-to-day way, what's happening just now, how we relate to it is what's important. It's not important to have bigger experiences, more profound experiences, I don't think. It's a cultivation of a kind of an appreciation for what is just given all the time. Meditation gives us a chance. I've been sort of talking about meditation in this way quite a lot, haven't I? On this retreat, it's obviously a little theme popping up for me, isn't it? What's important perhaps is a relaxing into what's already there, who you already are, not feeling that you should be somehow better or different, more being appreciative or just willing to experience who you are. I was I had the radio on earlier this morning, listening to the news, and I had a little piece on antidepressants. I'm not having any opinion about antidepressants one way or the other, but it was some research done in Cambridge where they found, and I was a bit surprised that this seemed to be a surprise. I thought everybody knew this, but anyway, they found that antidepressants kind of cuts off, limits our range of feeling, it flattens out our experience basically. And of course, sometimes, if we're in sometimes maybe antidepressants are very useful for people. And as I say, I'm not commenting on the use of them one way or the other, but I was kind of surprised that they were saying this was putting it up as something they'd found out. And I thought that was fairly well known, but anyway. And they were talking about people that actually choose. They say, well, I'd rather have the highs and lows and this sort of more flattened experience. I think I think one of the things about meditation is I don't know, I don't want to use this language really. I'm going to say it's a safe space. Of course, I find that language quite a little bit tricky, but there is something about meditation that does provide a particular opportunity for you just to experience yourself more deeply without being sort of so reactive to it, It's difficult, isn't it? In other words, that Rumi poem, isn't it? Out beyond ideas of right doing or wrong doing, there's a field, that famous one, It's this sort of idea that there's a different experience of our larger self that we can have, which is I think after a while, when you cultivate this, it's reassuring of the smaller self, really. It's like we're trying to allow a certain part of us to have a rest, you know, without numbing out, without flattening ourselves, without sort of reducing the bandwidth of our experience. We're trying to sort of open up that bandwidth and at the same time kind of reassure this rather tight held part of ourselves, you know, that wants to try and keep everything safe, keep everything, you know, working, as it were. So reassure that part of ourselves that that too can relax, you know, that too can, it's okay, you know. I quite often think that one of the hardest things in for us as practitioners is the first noble truth that we don't actually accept the first noble truth. Yeah, that life is suffering, dukkha. Yeah, life is unsatisfactory. That actually we get involved in Buddhism because we want to avoid that. Yeah, we want to avoid the fact that there's dukkha. Yeah. But that isn't what Buddhism's saying, is it? It's saying that we can come into a different relationship with that. From the ego perspective, as long as the ego perspective predominates, you're going to suffer, aren't you? There's no, you know. There's no way around that, I don't think, you know. And I think we don't want to bring into our meditation another maneuver to try and avoid suffering. It's a bit like an antidepressant, isn't it? What we're trying to do in meditation, perhaps, what we're trying to do in meditation is to have the courage, to have the confidence just to experience what's there. Yeah. And of course, this is the full range of our experience, the full range of our experience. Yeah. So this is the depth of our experience, but includes, you know, what's difficult in our life. But of course, it also includes the bliss and the pleasure and the delight in life as well. So, but we're trying to do it in a way that's anyway, and maybe the other. So this word remember means to put back together, doesn't it? Yeah, to put back together. So another thing that's happened in meditation, to some extent, if we're trying to have a different experience of time itself, yeah, it's not that linear time doesn't exist. It's just that kind of perhaps linear time isn't the whole story. Yeah, from a psychic point of view. Perhaps your psyche isn't on clock time. It doesn't work in that way. What does this mean? This means that some experiences we've had many years ago are still active, still alive, still shaping and affecting us. That in the past, from a linear point of view, but actually they're still active in us. You know? And of course, this is always the case. Our childhood, for instance, is always, all of our life is active in us, isn't it? it's gone in a certain sense, but then everything's gone from moment to moment in a certain sense. But in another sense, it's still there, isn't it? When we meditate, we're trying to sort of perhaps relax this idea of being in linear time. This is quite a difficult thing that I'm trying to grapple with as a way of conveying. You know, I mentioned Dogen yesterday, didn't I? And he's very big on this. You know, that a moment contains past, present, and future. It's all in a moment. Yeah, this is quite hard to understand. You know. Or maybe it's not understandable in an intellectual way. I mean, it's not so different from Rumi's poem, is it? There is a field, I meet you there, when the soul lays down in that grass. Yeah. The world is too full to speak of. This is very much like what Dogen is trying to say, I think. They're two quite similar, that there's some way of being in the world where everything is present in the same moment. When the Buddha sits under the Bodhi tree and remembers all his past lives, what's that trying to tell us, you know? I think we think of conditionality as sequential, don't we? That one, but the original conditions. It's a bit like when we look into space. We're looking at things which are millions and millions and millions of years old, aren't we? You know, but they're still sort of active in a sense, aren't they? They're just reaching us. You know, the light from these stars are just reaching us. Yeah. So, anyway, the main thing, all this is maybe a little bit of a red herring. I think the main thing is that when we meditate, we're trying to have an appreciation of ourselves. You know? We're trying to appreciate, or have this appreciation of ourselves. We come back to love, don't we? I think in the end we always return to this idea of love, although it's, of course, maybe that's an inadequate or trite word these days, you know, but a deep appreciation of ourselves. You know, it's quite difficult. You know, it's a very interesting teaching in Buddhism, you know, about comparing ourselves with others. We shouldn't think we're better or worse or the same. We're just who we are, aren't we? If once we're in a comparative, when we meditate, we might think my meditation isn't very good. Or we might think I'm a good meditator. Actually, neither of them are appropriate. Meditation isn't a comparative thing. We might think, oh, other people seem to have more interest in profound experiences than me. But that's not quite right, is there? See, when we have these kind of thoughts, we there's something slightly going wrong, because it means we're meditating from the kind of ego perspective, aren't we? That we should be having a particular experience which can be compared to other people's experiences. That's not what we're doing, is it, when we meditate? We're trying to have a deeper appreciation of us. We are who we are. And that's sufficient, isn't it? The world or the universe has manifested you. Maybe there's a reason for that, maybe there's not, maybe it's just random, but you're here in the world, aren't you? Yeah. And you're here in the world as you, you're not here in the world as something to be compared with somebody else. Yeah. I think our cultivation of love, as we do in the Metta Bhavana, or we try to do in the Metta Bhavanas, is a very profound thing we're trying to do to appreciate ourselves, not based on comparison, not based on the norms of our society, which is sort of fairly random, really, you know. But something I struggle to express this. What it's finding that it's finding a different voice in yourself from that ego voice, which is never going to, you're never going to be good enough from that voice's point of view. Yeah. I might be at danger of literalizing this here, but what I think it's more or less like you've got to get a feeling for where that voice is in you, that demanding, comparative voice that's telling you that you're great or you're awful or you're not good enough or you're what, you know, whatever, that part of you, except you've got that voice, yeah, you've got that voice, got that part of you, then you've got to find some other voice, some counter voice. What can we call it? Maybe we can associate it with the heart. You might not necessarily feel it in that part of the body. You might feel it somewhere else, but a heart voice or a different voice, you know, a loving voice, that unconditionally loving voice that's going to come into relationship with that kind of ego voice, you know. We have all these figures, don't we? You know, whether it's Tara or Amitabha or whatever, and they all have the quality of unconditional love. How many of us really contact that inside ourselves, that unconditional love? Yeah. How often do you actually even say to yourself, or have a voice, the internal voice that's, I don't know, that actually says to you, I love you, I unconditionally love you. Do you even allow yourself to have that thought, or do you encourage that kind of energy in your body? It's a kind of energetic thing, isn't it? It takes a lot of patience, I think, to begin to capture this, have this sort of on your side, you know. How often are you really on your side in this sort of way? Yeah. In this deep, loving way that and where do we find that, you know? It's not, I can only express this, well, we can express it as image, can't we? I'm going to say I can only express this in words, of course, you know, I'm talking to that, you know, I'm trying to express something in words that it's very inadequate, but when we meditate, one of the simplest things we can do is to start noticing this sort of voice that we're using. You know, what is it that's calling us to do this practice? Yeah, it's not quite our voice in the ego sense, is it? It's something different in us. I think it's something natural in us. It's not. You see, I'm always, if I when you take a dog on a beach or something, you know, you see this dog just running along and it's got this kind of joy for life. It's just enjoying its body. It's just enjoying being in the world. It's enjoying being a dog, you know. Well, it's a funny thing, isn't it? I do, you know, I think at some time or other, you know, we're all struck by a kind of magnificent tree. It's just a tree being a tree, isn't it? It's just being what it is, you know. The funny thing that in meditation, we can just be who we are. We can give ourselves permission just to be who we are fully. I mentioned Suzuki, Zen Mind, Beginner of Mind yesterday, didn't I? One of the little essays in that book, he's talking about how when we meditate, we express ourselves fully. This is a funny idea, isn't it? We're just sitting there doing nothing. But he's saying, actually, when we meditate, we express ourselves fully. It's our chance to be fully ourselves. What does this mean? I'm not going to tell you what it means, but I don't know. But I have a feeling for it. There's sometimes when I meditate and I just allow myself to be who I am. There's a certain structure to it. There's a certain sort of discipline to it, even. The discipline's in the posture, yeah? I don't, there's a different thing about, you know, you collapse on the sofa in front of a box set. That's, yeah, that's fine, you know, sometimes people need to do that perhaps. I mean, or our equivalent to it. But we're doing something quite different, aren't we, when we meditate? We'll have a certain alertness. Yeah, the alertness is expressed through the posture. Like we're making a commitment to be present, aren't we? When we meditate, we're trying to be present. What to be present means to be fully involved in the world in a funny sort of way, doesn't it? We're present to something, aren't we? We're present to ourselves, our own bodies, and we're present to the world that we live in. We're not trying to manipulate. To be present is different from it's so different modes of being, isn't there? It's not a manipulative mode. Something quite different is going on when we meditate. We're just trying to be fully present. When we're fully present, it's that there's a total openness. There's a total openness. You know? I mean, we don't often achieve this, but when even we achieve it for a few moments, it's a liberation. We do experience a sense of liberation, of just being what we are. What we are is so much more interesting than what our ego thinks we are. Yeah. And one of the things about having this sort of experience when we meditate is that we feel supported by everything in the world. We feel supported by how things are rather than how we'd like them to be. I keep making this point that, of course, there's different modes. I'm not saying we just sit there all day in bliss. I mean, some people choose to do this, don't they? There is a tradition of people going out and, maybe they go on 3-year retreats. Maybe they go and live in a cave for 20 years. Maybe most of us don't choose to do this, I'm not suggesting we should. But I am suggesting that maybe possibly once a day for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, or however it is, meditation gives you a little glimpse. You can touch in on this, just being present to yourself. It's an act of love, isn't it? To be present to how things are. The acts of love for yourself, but more broadly, it's an act of love towards the world as well. Let's do some practice together. So get yourselves comfortable. Where does the time go? Who knows where the time goes? Okay. Oh God, I haven't put out my I just hearing the recycling lorry going down my road. I haven't put out my recycling. Oh no. Oh, well, never mind. Wait till next week. So anyway, maybe take a couple of in and out breaths with a little bit more weight in them, just to sort of maybe in a bit of a headspace, I don't know, whatever. And just breathing down into your belly there, into your guts, into your genitals, into your buttocks. Yeah. Get a bit of breath into the legs. So when we say this, we just mean as you breathe in, you're aware of your legs, and as you breathe out, you're aware of your legs. Don't do body scans without the breath, I don't think. Well, sometimes we do these anyway. So you can feel as you breathe in, just notice what your legs feel like, and as you breathe out, notice what your legs feel like. Think of all the oxygen in your blood going down to the muscle and tissue. In your legs, and your little toes, and your feet. And have a felt sense of connection with whatever you're sitting on, and also an imaginal, supported by an imaginal, not a fantasy, but just remembering what the world actually is. You're sitting on the world, aren't you? You're sitting on the floor under your house somewhere. It's the earth. Earth goes down deep and broadens out into the landscape. So we just remember where we are. It's not even necessarily a cognitive thing. It's more of just a kind of felt imagining. Don't put yourself in abstract spaces. Be in the real space that you're in the real world that you're in. With its what is it, 35 billion years of life. And here we are in this certain river of life, aren't we? The moment. All we're here together in this moment. all that weight, all that depth of what we think of as past and future, sort of holding in a moment. As you relax your face through your legs, if that makes any sense, as you try and let go in the legs, let the face relax. Your pelvis settle. Release your head upwards towards the ceiling of your room. And very gently pushing the back of the head up. Drop the nose a little towards the navel. Maybe drop the sternum just a tiny bit towards the navel, so you lengthen in the back. Open up the armpits a little bit. Soften the hands. Let the body become beautifully pliable with the breath. Just feel how the breath moves the whole of you, really. Through stillness in the meditation posture, we come into movement, this dynamic movement of life. What seems to be still, of course, is anything but, really, isn't it? The whole belly moving, your chest, your shoulders, your armpits, everything's kind of affected by that in-breath and out-breath. It washes through you. Right down to the root, even in the legs, you can feel the breath. Really let your body breathe. And as you breathe in, just breathe in everything in the probably hear my recycling people going past my window. There you go. Let your body, let your posture, your body just express you in the world. But just noticing what's happening. Breath is happening. The room around you is happening. The sky is happening. The earth is happening. You're happening within all of this. You come into presence of what's happening. These simple, basic things. Participating in the world, aren't we? Breathing in the oxygen, the plants and the trees. Making sensations in your body. Maybe some are pleasant, maybe some are less pleasant. Just let them happen. And release into diaphragm, your belly, supporting your heart, your lungs, the spine, making up really core of you, connecting you. Let your body be activated by the environment that you're in. Skin, touching the air. Sky opening, offering you openness, vast openness above you. Deep solidity below you. Your bones and your muscles, all made of the world, aren't you? All of you, every bit of you made of the world. earth in you, the air and water, the minerals. Birds singing outside and inside. Being present, manifesting everything, manifesting in this moment. Includes everything, all the past, all the future, all the present. Soft face. Would it feel like to let yourself be in love with this moment? Nothing special. The world as it is. Okay, so in your own time, you can move to resting, have a little rest. Okay, so just relaxing Not trying to maintain any particular awareness now. You can drift away if you want, go sleep. Just try and sort of give up any sense of controlling your experience. I realize that's a bit of a contradiction in terms. Mm. Mm. Maybe laying still just for a few more moments before you get up. So, and just sense of anything that's been going on. Just try and bring up the mood into your meditational posture. So we try and make these transitions without disturbing ourselves more than necessary. You know? Maybe use the breath as a bridge. And we'll just come up and just sort of carefully, but if possibly fairly kind of fluidly, take the posture. When we take the posture, we're coming into an alignment, aren't we? That's supportive of a certain clarity, openness of awareness. And we'll just sit with a breath in the world for a little fairly short meditation time we've got left. Just settling. If you're lucky in this life, one day while walking through a stand of silver birch at dawn, as the golden light spills over the lip of the world, or crossing a swift, shallow stream on stepping stones, or just sitting quietly in your room, hearing the song of a bird woven into the din of your city, your body might reveal itself to you as a home for the world, giving you a glimpse that you are entirely beyond yourself. Like the white deer at the beginning of a fable. And if without hesitation you follow, you'll find yourself gloriously lost in the rise and fall of your seasons. Just being present to what is naturally manifesting. But just having a sense, and awareness of what's going on. Before we finish, you have a sense of the other people you're sitting with, whatever they might be. This is real, an individual, and you. Our hopes and our fears, joys and despair, just like thought. In the world around us. Just as it is. It's wonder, perfection. What would it feel like just to sit in solidarity with other people in the world, life?